Well, hello, everyone, and welcome to Uncivil Law. I hope you're having a good day. And today is a good day for Uncivil Law because we get to talk about some uncivil people and the potential criminal charges they may be facing in the near future. Today is a good day. Gotta remember to mute the other audio. Fantastic. Okay. Anyway, so we're going to be looking at some of the potential criminal charges our friends are going to face. As we're putting this as game show contestants, they're contestants. They're contestants in our game show. The game show is which prize have you won? And the wonderful thing about this game show is that all of them can theoretically win all the prizes. It's the greatest game show ever. Unfortunately, the prize is years in jail. So I will be your host for this game show, and I will tell our contestants about some of the prizes they may win in this show. Super fun. Yeah. So I do have to give a couple disclaimers, though, for the purposes of legal education. First, as always, everyone is innocent until proven guilty. So I am not saying that any particular person is guilty of any of these crimes. Right? I don't even know. There's a lot of different people involved, depending on how we want to interpret liability, criminal liability. So I'm definitely not saying that any particular person is guilty of any of these particular crimes. Yeah, that's just number one. Number two, this list does not include any state crimes. This is just federal crimes in the federal U.S. Code. Now, why do I make a point of mentioning that? Well, first of all, because D.C. has state crimes in addition to federal crimes. They have their own criminal code. So the state of D.C. could prosecute them in the D.C. state courts as well, in addition to federal jurisdiction. There actually are state courts in D.C. that they could be charged in. But even more to the point, they could be potentially charged in other states. How is that possible? Well, as a general proposition of law, when it comes to crimes, you can be charged for a crime where any element of the crime is committed in the relevant jurisdiction. So, for example, some of our friends over here appear to have brought in improvised explosives, maybe in the form of pipe bombs. So were those pipe bombs manufactured in DC, or were they perhaps transported from somewhere else? So that state would also have jurisdiction over them as well. How fun. Jurisdiction in many different places. So this is not, and a lot of these people traveled from a lot of different places. And to the extent that you believe that any of these people had agreements or Facebook groups or Slacks or Discords or anything else where they might have been planning or talking or saying some of the things that they were planning on doing, that is sounding suspiciously like a conspiracy. And the conspiracy may have been formed in, I don't know, Washington State or Illinois or Guam or wherever these people traveled from, and many other places. So lots of places potentially have jurisdiction over this and many other crimes. So this does not include state-level offenses, and there is potential liability there to be sure. And although this list is fairly long, this list is both under-inclusive and over-inclusive at the same time. It does not include everything that is theoretically chargeable, because I did look for like a half hour and I found, I don't know, 20 or something. And I thought that was a good place to stop. So this is some of the things they may be charged with. And of course, this list is also over-inclusive because some of the things on this list may not actually apply in the end to potentially anybody. This is all potential prizes people can win. Although I think that there's at least some possibility that any of our contestants could win all these prizes because the law can be a real pain in the ass. All right, so with all that being said, let's just start. And if for those of you who are looking, you can direct your attention from the text of the screen above where the tabs are for the browser. How many tabs are there? We're going to be here for a little bit. All right, so let's start with 18 USC 231, civil disorders. Section A2, whoever transports or manufactures for transportation in commerce any firearm or explosive or incendiary device, right, knowing or having reason to know or intending the same to be used unlawfully in furtherance of a civil disorder. That might describe some people. Whoever commits or attempts to commit any act to obstruct, impede, or interfere with any fireman or law enforcement officer lawfully engaged in the lawful performance of his official duties, instant to and during the commission of a civil disorder. That sounds like it might describe some people, which in any way or any degree obstructs, delays, or adversely affects commerce or the movement of an article in commerce or the conduct or performance of any federally protected function. 5 years. Great. That's one. Let's press on. 18 U.S.C. 351. Congressional, cabinet, and Supreme Court assassinations, kidnapping, and assaults and penalties. And we will scroll down. Now, this one I like because it gets creative, right? Whoever kills any individual who is a member of Congress or member of Congress-elect, a member of the executive branch, or person nominated to be, can be fined in this or punished in this title. Whoever kidnaps any such person, and then letter C, where this potentially comes in. Whoever attempts to kill or kidnap any individual designated in subsection A of this section shall be punishment for any terms of years or life. Now, who are the people in subsection A who we might be attempting to kill or kidnap? Well, let's see. Any member of Congress, member of Congress-elect, the president or the vice president-elect, such as, for example, Kamala Harris, who was there. Yeah. D, if two or more persons conspire to kill or kidnap any individual designated in subsection A, and one or more of the persons do any act to effect the conspiracy, each can be punished. Did any of the people form the mental intent at any point to kill any member of Congress or any member of the executive branch or anyone who is a nominee for the office of president or vice president? I don't know. Some of these people might have had murder in their hearts or kidnapping in these hearts. I mean, they were trying to stage a coup. So, 18 U.S.C. 351, you might win that prize. Let's press on some more. 18 U.S.C. 372, conspiracy to impede or injure an officer. If any two or more persons in any state, territory, possession, or district conspire to prevent, by force or intimidation or threats, any person from accepting or holding any office of trust or place of confidence under the United States, or from discharging any duty thereof. Do we think it's possible that two or more people conspired to, by force or intimidation, prevent any officer of the United States from discharge of their official duties? That sounds like that might be a thing that applies. Could be. Or likewise, by like means, induce any officer to leave the place where his discharge are required, or injure him in his person or property on account of the lawful discharge. Each person shall be, or attempt to impede, hinder, or molest them. 6 years. So that's 6 years. 18 U.S.C. 372. Conspiracy to, by force or intimidation, prevent any person of the United States from discharge of duties. That sounds like something that might apply to some of our friends over here. Let's read on. We're only 3 down, guys. We're only 3 deep, and you see the tabs just continue. The tabs continue forever. We haven't even gotten to the really good stuff yet. We're in the easy stuff so far, right? All right, yeah, this is going to be one that's going to hit a lot of people over the head with a ton of bricks. 18 U.S.C. 373, solicitation to commit a crime of violence. You should commit... Yeah. Whoever, with intent that another person engage in conduct constituting a felony that has as an element the use, attempted use, or threatened use of physical force against property or against the person of another. I don't know. Yeah. In violation of the laws of the United States, and under such circumstances strongly corroborative of that intent, solicit, commands, induces, or otherwise endeavors to persuade such other person to engage in that conduct. You think anyone might have been encouraging specific people to commit specific crimes? You think anyone might have been saying, not it would be good for people to raid the Capitol, but hey, you, it would be great for you specifically to do this thing. You know, there's that. Shall be imprisoned not more than 1/2 the maximum term of the punishment, and fined not more than 1/2 of the time for the punishment of the crime solicited. So they get 1/2 of anything they solicited for. Fun. Yeah. So maybe some people were encouraging people with the intent that those people would commit the crimes. We're encouraging specific people to commit crimes with the intent that they would commit the crimes, and the crimes did in fact occur. You know, that's the thing that could be relevant. So 18 USC 373, all the Facebook groups, all the message boards, all the Discords, all the Twitters. We should go do this. You should go do this. You should go to the Capitol, and you should storm the battlements. Yeah, I think some people might be tripping up on 13 USC 373 for solicitation. That could definitely be a thing. Let's read some more. 18 USC 610, coercion of political activity. Can we think of anyone who recently has been coerced with respect to their political activity? It shall be unlawful for any person to intimidate, threaten, command, or coerce, or attempt to intimidate, threaten, command, or coerce any employee of the federal government to engage in or not to engage in any political activity, including but not limited to voting or refusing to vote for any candidate or measure an election, making or refusing to make a political contribution, or working or refusing to work on behalf of a candidate. 3 years. I'm thinking it's possible some of the people who stormed the Capitol yesterday may have been threatening or coercing or attempting to threaten or coerce an employee of the federal government to engage in or not engage in a political activity. I'm thinking some of our friends over here might have tripped up on 18 USC 610. This is a prize you could win. The prize is 3 years in prison. Let's read some more. 18 USC 832. Participation in nuclear and weapons of mass destruction threats to the United States. This is such a pain in the ass because of the way that weapon of mass destruction is defined. A pipe bomb qualifies as a weapon of mass destruction under the law. You don't have to like it. I'm just telling you, it does. So all the people who brought pipe bombs, that's a weapon of mass destruction under the relevant U.S. law. You know, just telling you. Whoever without lawful authority develops, possess, or attempts, or conspires to develop or possess a radiological weapon, or threatens to use a radiological weapon, or a national of the United States, when such national is outside the United States, or against any property that is owned, leased, or funded, or used by the United States, whether that property is inside or outside the United States. Yeah, could be a problem. Could be a problem. Yeah, if you want to know where weapons of mass destruction gets its definition and why this is such a pain in the ass, you go over to 18 USC 832. So we'll do that real fast. And then it says weapon of mass destruction means a program or plan for development as defined by this other section. So we're now going to go read that section. And then it says a weapon of mass destruction means any destructive device as defined in section 921. So now we have to go to a fourth statute, right? We have a statute incorporating a statute, incorporating a statute, incorporating a statute. So now we're 4 statutes deep into this thing. Yeah. And then we come to 18 USC 921, and we finally get to what's killing you guys. The term destructive device means any explosive, incendiary, or poison gas, bomb, grenade, mine, or device similar to or having device similar to this. So, having read 4 statutes deep, a pipe bomb qualifies as a weapon of mass destruction. I bet you didn't know that. The more you know. Yeah. Great. That's 20 years in prison for the pipe bomb. Just to let you know. Okay, then we got 18 USC 842. That was for the use of the pipe bomb. This is for the manufacture and transportation of the pipe bomb. So before, we had the use of the pipe bomb. Now we have the manufacture and transportation of the pipe bomb. That's 18 USC 842. It shall be unlawful for any person to engage in the business of importing or dealing in explosive materials without a license. It shall be unlawful for any, It shall be unlawful for any person knowingly to distribute explosive materials. Yeah. It shall be unlawful for any person to receive, possess, transport, ship, conceal, store, barter, sell, dispose of, or pledge, or accept as security for loan any explosive material. And then we have all this stuff for possession of firearms and all those people in 922. So all the people with firearms, I bet some of these people qualify as people who are prohibited under law. Just going to take a guess on that one, probably. So some of those people have some liability there for possession of firearms, not to mention the firearm laws of DC. It shall be unlawful for any person to teach or demonstrate the making of an explosive, destructive device or weapon of mass destruction, or distribute that information with the intent that the teaching information be used in furtherance of any activity that constitutes a federal crime. So if you teach or show or instruct someone how to make a weapon of mass destruction, which I remind you includes a pipe bomb, with the intent that that be used for the purpose of committing a federal crime, you've committed a federal crime. Don't teach people how to make pipe bombs if you want them to commit crimes with said pipe bombs. There's some 842 stuff for you there. For the manufacture and transport of the pipe bombs. We have more. We have so many prizes. We have so many prizes available for our contestants. So many. And yeah. Let's read some more stuff. We're getting there. We haven't gotten that far into the US code yet. We're getting there. Good question. We're getting there. We haven't gone that far yet. All right, let's read some more. (18 USC 871) threats against the presidents and successor to the presidency. Yeah. Whoever knowingly and willfully deposits for convenience in the mail and then skipping ahead, or any document or containing any threat to take the life of or kidnap or inflict harm upon the President of the United States. And I'm thinking here, by the way, all the Facebook messaging, if you're wondering where the messaging is, I'm thinking like the Facebook messaging, the Facebook groups, the Discord, the Twitter groups, 4chan, all that shit. Yeah. Or knowingly and willfully otherwise makes any such threat against these people shall be fined or imprisoned 5 years. I'm thinking some of these people might have written some documents. They might have written a letter, paper, writing, print, missive. I like missive as a formal legal term. That's badass. I didn't know that missive is a formal legal term. A missive it's kind of like a short letter. It's just, I've never seen it in law before. It's badass. Okay. Yeah. That threatens to take threatens to take the life. There's guilty. So there's some possibilities there for 18 USC 871, I think, and there could be some issues there. I think that's a possibility. (18 USC 879) threats against former presidents and other persons. Whoever knowingly and willfully threatens to kill, kidnap, or inflict bodily harm upon a major candidate for the office of president or vice president, or a person protected by the Secret Service, which Kamala Harris definitely qualifies as for both. She's been under the protection of the Secret Service for a little bit now. 5 years. For anyone who knowingly and willfully threatened to kill them, which I'm again thinking some people probably fall into this category. Just guessing. Let's read more. 922. This is possession of a firearm in violation of federal law. Again, I'm just going to take a flyer because I'm going to take a flyer and I'm going to guess that there were people who are prohibited persons who had firearms in their possession at the time they were on the Capitol. Now, whether or not we can prove any of that is a whole other set of problems. But this is a potential prize you might win. For example, maybe the FBI will come knock on your door and you will admit to the fact that you had a firearm on your person at the time. And if you think that won't happen, we've read more than enough cases where it's like, please, FBI, please come in. Would you like some tea as I confess? They're like, yes, we'd like some tea. Also, we'd like the confession. So, do I think that there are some people who might have been in violation of 18 U.S.C. 922 for possession of a firearm, even though they're a prohibited person? Do I think some of those people might confess? Do I think some of those people might be charged with this? I think those things. I think that's possible. Yeah, could be. Could be a problem. But even if they're not, then maybe some of those people brought firearms into the building. Yeah, or a portion thereof. 18 U.S.C. 930. Whoever brings a deadly weapon into a federal facility, 1 year in prison. If you don't have criminal intent. If you have criminal intent, 5 years. If you just do it without intent, 1 year. If you do it with intent, 5 years. So, again, maybe some of them brought firearms into a federal facility. The U.S. Congress would qualify as a federal facility. And then there's some language down here that says that facility includes a building or part thereof. And then we have to figure out what a part of the building is and whether the grounds qualify or not. But that's a potential charge. That's a potential charge some of our friends might be able to win. Yeah, this obviously doesn't apply to law enforcement. Yeah, it goes on to specify that in subsection A. It doesn't apply to a law enforcement officer of the United States, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, so great. Yeah, obviously, if you're authorized, that doesn't apply to you. Next up. All right, this is a good one. Murder. Possible. We're thinking felony murder here, right? We're thinking a death that occurred during the commission of a felony. Now, this is controversial, and this is going to be more difficult. This is in the more of the outreach's possibility, but the Capitol Police, I believe, it doesn't really matter what law enforcement. In fact, it doesn't necessarily even have to be law enforcement, but a law enforcement officer shot and killed a person. As part of the conflagration of this person died. So that's a death that occurred during the commission of a felony, an inherently dangerous one, like, some of the stuff we've been talking about, incidentally. So could we charge some of these people with felony murder? Possible. We can at least think about it. A death occurred during the commission of a dangerous felony that you promulgated. It was a foreseeable consequence to some degree, probably. If you had a brain at all, yeah. And you might be liable for that death. So, life imprisonment. Possible. Play stupid games, win stupid prizes. That's why this is a game show. They've played a stupid game. I'm here to tell them about some of the stupid prizes they may be able to win. Tell them what we have next for them, Johnny. Well, right this way. Next up for you, we've got 18 U.S.C. 1361, government property. Whoever willfully injures or commits any depredation against any property of the United States shall be punished as follows. 10 years. Do we think that there is some injury or depredation against property in the United States? Like the smashing windows, maybe? 10 years. Good. Yep. Next. (18 U.S.C. 2339), harboring or concealing terrorists. This is perhaps an ongoing crime. A crime that continues to occur at this very moment. Yeah, this might be a crime that is occurring as we speak. Whoever harbors or conceals any person who he knows or has reasonable grounds to believe has committed or is about to commit any offense that we just kind of went over shall be fined 10 years. So if you are currently harboring or concealing any person you know or would have reason to know did stuff, 10 years, you might win a prize for the aiding and abetting after the fact. Accessory. Don't conceal terrorists. (18 U.S.C. 2101), riots. Whoever travels in interstate or foreign commerce or uses any facility of interstate or foreign commerce, including but not limited to mail, telegraph, telephone, rail, or television with intent to incite a riot, to organize, promote, or encourage, participate, or carry on a riot, to act in furtherance of the riot, to aid and abet any person committing the riots. 5 years. Five years. Then we get to our definition of terrorism, by the way, because you're like, well, why are they terrorists? Well, here's what a terrorist is legally. This is domestic terrorism, so we'll skip the international section. So what is a terrorist? Well, what is a domestic terrorist? Because international terrorism has a definition. right? So what is a domestic terrorist? Okay. The term domestic terrorism means any activity that involves acts dangerous to human life that are in violation of the criminal laws of the United States, appears to be intended to intimidate or coerce a civilian population, to influence the policy of government by intimidation or coercion, to affect the conduct of government by mass destruction, assassination, or kidnapping. And we covered that mass destruction clause earlier, remember? We came back to it, right? The pipe bomb that occurs within the jurisdiction of the United States. I think you might be able to say that these are legally domestic terrorists. Did these people do acts that are inherently dangerous to human life that are criminal? Does it appear that it was intended to influence the policy of the government or to affect the conduct of the government? You might be a domestic terrorist. You know, some of our candidates might win the domestic terrorist prize. And then you get all those wonderful penalties for being a domestic terrorist. Oh, yeah, now we get into RICO. Criminal RICO. Yeah, so we get into criminal RICO. All right. So, again, I'm thinking here about the Facebook groups, the messengers, the messaging, Discords, the Twitters, the Instagram. I don't know, the 4chans, the Reddits. I don't know where these people hang out and collaborate. I don't know. Is it possible that some of them might have committed 2 predicate acts and corrupted the enterprise that was their organization? Yeah. Is it a reach? Yes, it's a reach. But, you know, I mentioned that at the top that some of this stuff will be a little bit of a reach. But it's possible. We got ourselves a RICO. It might be RICO. It's at least debatable that it's RICO. RICO. That's racketeering. That's a racketeered, influenced, corrupt organization, in case you want to know what RICO stands for. So a racket has a definition. So what is the actual definition of racket? It has a long definition. Yeah. It's a whole bunch of stuff. Fraud, murder, bribery, theft, wire fraud, labor union fraud. It goes on for a while. There's a lot of things. Okay, so you have a racketeered, influenced, corrupt organization. So what you need is an organization. That's a group, right? You need an organization that is corrupt, so it's not a lawful corporation, a lawful organization, and it's influenced by the racketeering. That's what RICO is. This is the mob. And hey, some of these people were kind of mob-like, so it might be a RICO. It might be a RICO. We can at least think about it. $10 from Melissa. I really appreciate your energy clearly going over what applicable laws are in the situation and the likely availability of charge coming. No problem. Yeah, I'm very happy to do this because these people need to... I said on Emily's chat yesterday, I want to bring back a pillory. That's kind of what I want personally, because I just would find it to be very satisfying. I don't know that's necessarily justice in any sense on any level, but on a purely personal level, what I'd like to do is I'd like to take, at least at a bare minimum, everyone who entered the Capitol building. I'd like to take all of them and I'd like to put them in a pillory. And then I'd like to throw tomatoes at them. That would be great. That would be very satisfying. There's more than enough we could line them up and down Pennsylvania Avenue. That'd be fun. Or K Street, maybe. That'd be good. Yeah, let's do it on K Street. That'd be fun. We can get a whole bunch of pillories together, and we can put everyone who entered the building, and we'll put them in a pillory, and I'll go throw tomatoes at them. I don't know if that's justice on any level. I don't know if it in any way, like, balances the scales of the wrong. But on a purely personal level, that's kind of what I want. I want to put them in pillories, and I want to throw tomatoes at them. That'll make me feel a lot better. I don't think I'm going to get my tomato throwing opportunity, though. I'm a little bit disappointed, I have to say. Yeah. Yeah. <clears throat> 18 USC 2339, providing material support to terrorists. We covered the definition of terrorist earlier. Whoever provides material support or resources or conceals or disguises the nature, location, source, or ownership of the material resources, knowing or intending that they be used in, preparation for, or carrying out a violation of lots of things, 15 years. That would be aiding and abetting terrorism. That's the short definition. Aiding and abetting terrorism. You provided material support. That would be money. That would be equipment. That would be you paid for their transportation. That would be you provided them explosives. You provide them material support, resources for the domestic terrorism, 15 years. 15 years. Material support or resources means any property, tangible or intangible, that would be like electronic money, would be like an intangible property, or service, including currency or monetary instruments or financial securities, financial services, lodging, training, export advice or assistance, safe house, false documentation, communication equipment, facilities, weapons, lethal substances, explosives, personnel, or transportation. I'm thinking there might be some people guilty of the aiding and abetting the terrorism. I'm thinking some of this was planned and some of it was intended and people provided support therein. I'm thinking there might be some material aiding and abetting of the domestic terrorists from the definitions that we discussed earlier about what terrorism is. Let's read more. Treason. That's a big one. That's a tough one though. That's a stretch. Treason's hard, but you don't really need to get to treason because we have so many other things to charge them with. But in the interest of being expansive, whoever owing allegiance to the United States levies war against them is guilty of treason. 5 years to life imprisonment or the death penalty. Possible. It's a bit of a stretch. Levied war against the United States. Yeah, it's a stretch, but we might as well discuss it. It's possible. It's unlikely, but this is a potential prize you might win. Probably not, but we might as well mention it in the same breath. That's okay. We have other things to charge you with. Rebellion. This is looking a lot more promising. 18 USC 2383, rebellion or insurrection. This is a lot more promising than the treason. Whoever incites, sets on foot, assists, or engages in any rebellion or insurrection against the authority of the United States, or gives aid or comfort, 10 years. Incites, assists, or engages in a rebellion or insurrection against the authority of the United States, or gives aid, 10 years. 10 years. That's a lot more promising than the treason. That's a lot more promising than the treason. The rebellion or insurrection. That's a lot more promising. All right, let's move on. Sedition. Seditious conspiracy. 18 USC 2384. Seditious conspiracy. Sedition. If two or more persons, that would be what you need for a conspiracy, two or more people to engage, right? If two or more persons in any state or territory or any place subject to the jurisdiction of the United States conspire to overthrow, put down, or destroy by force the government of the United States, or levy war against them, or to oppose by force the authority thereof, or by force prevent, hinder, or delay the execution of any law of the United States, or by force seize, take, or possess any property of the United States, contrary to law, 20 years. The seditious conspiracy looks pretty good, man. Do we think that there were 2 or more people who formed an agreement to, by force, overthrow, put down, destroy the government, or prevent, hinder, or delay the execution of the law of the United States? Sedition looks kind of promising. Feeling like there could be a little bit of sedition. Could definitely be a seditious conspiracy. Yeah, that's definitely a possible. This is a possible prize you might win. 20 years in prison. (18 U.S.C. 2385), advocating the overthrow of the government. Whoever knowingly or willfully advocates, abets, advises, or teaches the duty, necessity, desirability, or propriety of overthrowing or destroying the government of the United States, or a government of any state, or the government of any political subdivision by force or violence. So it's legal to overthrow the United States, just not violently. So whoever advocates to do it by force or violence, those are key words here. You can advocate that the United States government be overthrown. You just can't do it by force or violence. So if you willfully advocate for the destruction of the United States with force or violence, this applies to you. Or with intent to cause the overthrow or destruction of any such government, prints, publishes, edits, issues, circulates, sells, distributes, or publicly displays any written or printed material, social media, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, 4chan, so forth and so on, advising, advocating, or teaching the duty, necessity, desirability, or propriety of destroying the United States by force or violence, or actually attempts to do so. That would be a lot of people yesterday, I think, falling into the attempting to do so category. So we got all the people who did it and all the people who were happy about it, basically. This is another one for all the Twitter social media people out there. This is another one for Twitter, social media, Facebook, Discord, Slack, whatever BS they are out there. The messaging group, whatever. Whoever organizes or attempts to organize any society, group, or assembly of persons who teach, advocate, or encourage the overthrow of the United States by force or violence, or as a member of such a group, 20 years. Yeah, you can't advocate for the violent overthrow of the government. 20 years. Yeah, could be a problem. The social media is definitely going to come back to bite a lot of these people in the ass. That's also how we're going to find a lot of these people. But that's kind of true of all crimes. This isn't a special this crime problem. This is just kind of true of the modern crimes. How many people videotaped it? How many people posted it on social media on their own accounts? How many people will identify themselves to the press by name? How are we going to find these people? People are idiots. It would be where they post on their Facebook page or their Twitter or their Instagram or whatever. Here is a picture of me smiling as I carry out the podium or whatever. That's going to be the FBI's clue. Just, yeah. Maybe don't out yourself on social media. That's good advice. Just a hint. Yeah. And then we're going to find those people. We're going to subpoena their accounts. We're going to find everyone they talk to, subpoena their accounts, and so forth and so on, the circle of life. Yeah. It's going great. We'll probably get a reverse search warrant and try to find everyone who had a cell phone in the area at the time. That'll be good too. Yeah, I imagine they're getting some reverse search warrants as we speak. Give me the identity of every single cell phone that was in the area at the time. That too. But the people outing themselves are going to be super helpful. How are we going to find these people? Super easy. Barely an inconvenience. No problem. (25 CFR 11.411) criminal trespass. A person commits this offense if, knowing that they're not licensed or privileged to do so, enters any building or occupied substructure. Yeah, trespass. I mean, it's kind of a gimme, but might as well mention it. You're there. And finally, for today's stream, we've got 40 USC 5104, unlawful activities. A person may not occupy the roads in the United States Capitol grounds in a manner that obstructs or hinders their proper use. This is going to be a good one for a lot of people yesterday. This is going to be a good one for a lot of people. A person may not step on or climb on or remove or in any way injure any statute, seat, wall, foundation, or other erection of architectural feature, or any tree, shrub, plant, or turf of the grounds of the Capitol. So it's illegal to climb the wall. An individual or group of individuals may not carry or have readily accessible a firearm, dangerous weapon, or explosive, discharge the explosive, or transport the explosive on the grounds. And this is another one, E1B, may not knowingly with force or violence enter or remain on the floor of either House of Congress. I think that might describe some people that we know. An individual or group of individuals may not willfully and knowingly enter or remain on the floor of either House of Congress or cloakroom or lobby unless authorized to do so. A person may not willfully and knowingly, with intent to disrupt the orderly conduct of official business, enter or remain in a room of any of the Capitol buildings. Yeah. Engage in any act of physical violence on the grounds of the Capitol building. I think that might describe some people. So, yeah. This is there's a lot, and there's probably other ones I didn't think of. I spent like a half hour Googling, trying to find every federal crime I think could theoretically apply, and I probably missed some because it's a long list. But we got the idea. It's not going well. Basically, everyone who did it and everyone who's happy about it. Anyone who climbed any building, took over things, disrupted the business of government, entered with the intent to kidnap or murder anybody, tried to prevent anyone from engaging in political rights, and it just goes on, and destruction of property. It goes on and on and on. Sedition, incitement. It's a lot. It's a lot of stuff. What are they going to do with all these people once they're found guilty, since our prisons are overcrowded? I'm sure they'll figure something out. Build more prisons, I guess. I don't know. Yeah, Lacey Act. I don't think there's a Lacey Act violation in there, but that's funny. Yeah, the Lacey Act is one that trips a lot of people up. There's probably not a Lacey Act one. That's a cute joke. I like that joke. Felony murder, yeah, we covered that as a possibility. It's a bit of a stretch, but it's possible. 2112, yeah. So what statutes did Kurt miss? What statutes did I miss? 18 USC 2112. Let's see if people in the chat have some ideas for ones I missed. Mm-hmm. Personal property of the United States. Whoever robs or attempts to rob. Nah, I don't think this was a robbery. But nice idea, nice try. I don't think this is well. That's not true. I mean, they did take. Well, no, because robbery is against a person. No one was attempting robbery. Yeah, there was theft and there was burglary, but not robbery. So I don't think that one works. But nice idea at least. Defending the straw man says, I don't think there's evidence of intent. Quite possibly there's not. But again, well, there's a couple things with respect to that. These are theoretical possibilities, and some are less theoretical than others. Because how would we determine their intent? Well, if they outed themselves on social media, if they at any point said it in an email, or probably even more likely, when the FBI eventually comes knock on their door and they say, please sit down, please sit down, FBI agent. Let me tell you about all the intent I had to commit the murder and kidnapping, which is definitely a thing that will happen to at least one of these people, I'm quite sure. Because it happens with, yeah. So either they'll out themselves in social media, they'll out themselves in some written document, or when the FBI comes and asks, they'll just tell them. We don't have enough information to form intent yet, but we'll get there. We'll get there for at least some of these people. Probably from them telling you I had the intent, it was my goal and purpose in life, to the FBI when they ask. That's definitely a thing that's going to happen. Yeah, that's definitely a thing that will happen. Can Trump pardon everyone? Well, for the U.S. federal laws, yes. For D.C., I'm pretty sure the answer to that question is yes, because D.C. is technically federal. And I think that's one of the reasons that people are talking about invoking the 25th, to prevent that from happening. So yeah, Trump could pardon all these people for that and all the other things. Now, I would like to point out that some of these people might still have liability under state law anyway. This goes back to the earlier part of the stream. Because again, as a general proposition of law, you can charge people with a criminal act if any part of the crime occurred in the relevant jurisdiction. So you have these crimes defined under federal law. But if part of the crime was committed in, say, Virginia or Maryland or wherever these people live, then you could charge them under the operative state law. It's a bit more of a pain in the butt, but you might theoretically still be able to get them under state law. So there's some potential state law liabilities. But yes, Trump could pardon them for the federal offenses, and everyone would hate it, including me. And I think that's one of the reasons they're talking about the 25th Amendment. Yeah, I think it's we covered felony murder. We talked about it at 18 USC 1111. We talked about the possibility. It's a bit of a stretch. But if we really want to go after somebody in particular, if we really want to make a particular example of somebody, we could try. It's a bit of a stretch, but we could try. There's other things that are more promising. Well, the sedition and insurrection and the conspiracy and but we talked about it. KJ filed documents. I want to get to them. So I wanted to get to them, but I wanted to do this too. So I have to decide when to do it. I guess I'll do it after Emily. That'll be the most polite thing, because I don't want to compete with Emily on time. So I will plan to do my take on the documents around 9 o'clock or 9:30 or something. And I'll do them today, because I don't want to compete against Emily on time if I don't have to. So you can't possess stolen property. So you can't sell it and you can't buy it. If you possess it, you're guilty of the law too. Yeah. There's so many things. What about the politician who live streamed to wealth? Oh yeah, I think he's a member of the State House of West Virginia, or he was. I think he was just sworn in like 2 days ago or something. I have a sneaking suspicion he's going to be expelled from the State House of Virginia. West Virginia, apologize. West Virginia, not Virginia. But yes, he can be expelled. And I think there's a pretty decent chance. I think there's a very excellent chance. In fact, if I had put money on it, I think it will happen. I think the West Virginia House will expel him rapidly. Yeah. So I think that's likely. Computer. I don't think anyone tried to access a computer. Well, maybe someone did. Actually, that's actually not a bad idea. Ewan Marshall does have a decent idea. But there was probably already logged in. But at least you're thinking along the right lines. So the it's Computer Fraud Something Act, and it has some really onerous positions. If you try to break in or use a computer that you don't have authorization to, so someone might have tried to log into someone's email or something, you might be able to get a CFAA out of that. Yeah, maybe someone did. CFAA might work. This is the first time I disagree with you on most of the things you say. I don't know on what basis you disagree with me. These are just like, here are the charges that are possible. And I went through them all and I'm like, here's what they say. And I'm like, a lot of this stuff seems like it describes some of the things that happen. So yeah, I don't particularly know why you disagree with me, but okay. Would a warrant for cell phones even be necessary? Patriot Act. The Patriot Act makes it easier to get warrants. The FISA warrants are still warrants. They're issued by the FISA courts. But yeah, you'd get a warrant. There's no reason not to. You probably just get a standard warrant at this point. If you're the FBI. It's like, you could go to the FISA court, but you probably get a standard warrant just to avoid the issue down the road. I mean, it doesn't really make a difference, but you want to take one less thing away. So I just get the warrant from the district court of DC if I were them and save myself the hassle. Yeah, so many prizes. You know, a lot of prizes, man. Where did I go to law school? In Ohio. I went to Akron. How is a reverse search warrant? Oh, it's just a name for something. It's just a name for it. It's what they call it. So a search warrant is if I'm searching for someone particular. So if I want to search a particular person's phone or a particular person's computer or something like that. So if I'm going after a particular thing or a particular place, it's just a normal search warrant. What a reverse search warrant is just a term of art. What it basically means is I'm doing a blanket search. They call them the reverse search warrants. So I want to get the logs for every phone in an area. That would be considered a reverse search warrant. It probably is known by other names, but yeah, that's just a term of art to call it a reverse search warrant. The statute didn't actually mention felony murder, no, but the case law seems to support it, as best as I was able to determine. And also, DC has its own variant. I think DC though requires one of the agents to commit the murder, and federal doesn't though. So federal is a little popular. Some people took hard drives. Yeah, I'll probably do it. Classified documents were stolen. Probably not classified. Well, they shouldn't be able to be stolen because they should really be locked up. But I have no problem believing documents were stolen. But classified is a little unlikely. Yeah. Giddy at the unjust stretching of laws to make you feel better. I did give a pretty big disclaimer at the start of this stream for anyone who was paying attention about them being over-inclusive and under-inclusive. I did make a pretty big point of saying that some of this stuff would not apply and may not apply to anyone in particular. These are all potential things. We don't know enough to be able to draw conclusions yet, but I did make a pretty big point at the intro of saying that this was going to be over-inclusive, and some of this stuff might not apply in the end. These are all things that I think are worthy of being in the table of possibilities. So, you know, I did make a point of mentioning it. Did I compare it to the Kavanaugh protest? I did not compare it to Kavanaugh. So my memory is a little bit hazy on Kavanaugh, but exactly what happened. But As I recall, and someone will correct me if my facts are wrong because it's been a little while, there were people who were trying to get into the Supreme Court by beating on the front doors, which incidentally are like made of solid brass or something. They're heavy as hell. You'd never be able to beat down those doors. That was yeah, you'd be unable to dent them really. So there's a bunch of people who tried to beat down the doors. I don't remember anyone climbing on the walls or anything. I'm trying to remember. There were a bunch of people who went into like some of the office buildings and protested, but there was no, I don't remember any destruction of property. I don't remember anything comparable in the Kavanaugh protests in sort of a factual posture. I do remember pictures being taken where they were occupying like the center part of the building, the atrium. But the most you could probably get there for would be like a trespass. And I think, I don't remember any of this other stuff. I don't remember any violence. There were a bunch of people who protested within the Capitol and disrupted proceedings. All those people could be charged. I don't know if any of them were, who actually stood up during the hearings and disrupted the hearings. All those people could be charged. I don't know if any of them were, but they could be. So I don't really remember a lot that would be comparable to this situation. Emily mentioned conviction would take longer, so should be outside of disability pardon. I'm sure you misunderstood Emily, Brandis, because you don't need to be convicted to be pardoned. You don't even need to be charged to be pardoned. You can be pardoned at any time after the commission of the act. So you must have misunderstood Emily, because I don't think she would make that mistake. Trump can pardon all these people now. There's nothing stopping him. The indictments are months into the future, let alone trials. I mean, they're far in the future, but the commission of the crime is done, except for the accessories, which might be ongoing. But except for that, you can pardon any time after the crime is committed. So you must have misunderstood Emily. Good legal analysis within 24 hours of the events. We need this. Thank you. Yeah, no problem. That's why I do is I try to do legal analysis. I say it's like, well, here's everything that could be true. And I said it's under inclusive because I didn't find everything because there's a lot of federal laws. I did some research, obviously, right? I did some research trying to find as much as I could that I thought was applicable. And I was like, yeah, this is under inclusive because there's probably some stuff I didn't think of, and it's over inclusive because some of the stuff may not apply. And I said where I thought some things were stretched. I'm like, yeah, this is a stretch. This is a stretch. This is more likely. So I tried to flag things as appropriate, tried to be relatively honest as much as I know how to be, right? My giddiness is the problem. I'm giddy at the fact that people will get their comeuppance. I do have a slight justice boner. That is true. There's some unsealed charges against 2 protesters. That's cool. Hundred people arrested for Kavanaugh inspired by warrants. Yeah, that's probably true. Yeah, there were a lot of people who committed disruptions and protests and harangues when they stand up and like try to disrupt something. It's called a harangue. So yeah, I imagine there were a lot of people arrested, and I don't know how many of them charged, but yeah. Shirt color looks good on me. Thank you. It's just a white shirt, but I appreciate it. It doesn't look quite white. It looks more yellow in this light, but thank you. I appreciate it. Did the DC mayor take any action to militarize the police, resulting in odd, unprepared police presence? Almost certainly not, but the Capitol grounds themselves are under the control of the Capitol Police, as you would expect. So I don't know what DC police presence was there, but the Capitol grounds themselves are under control of federal government. So I doubt the mayor did anything in particular. You can be pardoned for acts people aren't even aware of. Yeah, or maybe it didn't even happen. Yeah, blanket pardon for all crimes. Yeah, you can do that. If you pardon a criminal and someone harbored them after the pardon, is that a crime? If they harbored them after the pardon, no, because they wouldn't be a criminal when they were being harbored. Yeah. So if the pardon happened and then they harbored them, then it's not harboring because they're not a criminal at that point. Yeah. So that would be fine. Yeah. So if you pardon a criminal and harbor them after the pardon, yeah. If you pardon a criminal and someone harbored them before the pardon, however, then they're still guilty because they were still a felon. They were still a criminal at the time you did the thing. So you're still liable. It doesn't make it like retroactively for the world. So. Oh, this is the new lens, by the way. I don't know if you guys could tell or not, but this is the new lens. This is the $300 lens. Yeah, so we're testing it out, and we got so much blur. We got so much bokeh of the background, man. We got so much bokeh. Yeah, and I'm liking it. I'm liking the lens, man. Yeah, this is it was a good lens. It's $300. It better be. It was more expensive than I paid for the camera. But I guess that's what happens sometimes. But it's a good lens, so I like it. Depth of field, yeah. We got bokeh for days, man. So much bokeh. Personal thoughts on anyone else who Trump will pardon? I don't know, but I am more than a little bit worried about it. What lens is it? It's a Sigma. It's a Sigma 30 millimeter f1.4. Sigma 30 millimeter f1.4 for E-mount on a Sony camera. Sony Alpha 5100 in 1080p. Yeah. Yeah, the camera is a Sony Alpha 5100 and the lens is now a Sigma 30 millimeter f1.4 autofocus. Looks good. Yeah, thank you. Well, the subject is adorable. Well, thanks. Oh, shucks. I appreciate that. Yeah, so we'll see what happens in terms of the investigation. I wouldn't expect anything to happen. I mean, there were a couple people arrested yesterday. I'm not sure how many people were arrested. Not too many, but 24 or something like that, 30 people, something like that. So we'll see some charges for some of those people coming down the pipe. We might not see charges for all of them right away because some of them are going to be more responsible for others. So it might be delayed. And the FBI is only beginning their investigation along with the Capitol Police, and it'll take them a fair amount of time to go through all the evidence and all the social media stuff. So it'll take them some effort. But eventually some of these people might have a knock at their door. You know, so ask not for who the bell tolls, the bell tolls for thee, you know. $60 arrests, yeah. So we've seen 2 people charged already. You might see some of these people charged relatively fast. Some of them people will take a little bit longer, depending on what the liability is and stuff like that. And the U.S. attorney is going to have a field day. U.S. attorney for D.C. is going to have a field day. I want a job. If the U.S. attorney for D.C. happens to be watching, I am available. You know, I'd be more than happy to prosecute some of these people for being jackasses. Yeah, so I'm available. Just saying, I'd be a good assistant attorney. I would mean that I have to live near DC again, which is not my first option, but I do it for love of country. So, yeah. Do you think people get charged with some kind of computer digital crime for planning via the internet? Probably not a computer digital crime, not the way you're phrasing it, no. But they can get charged with the traditional crimes. The fact that it's on the internet or not would be irrelevant to the traditional crimes. So they can get charged with the conspiracy. They can get charged with the aiding and abetting. The tool that they used was a computer. Is there anything special about using a computer? No. Maybe wire fraud. Can we get these people for wire fraud? Is there any sort of fraud in this? Let's see if the definition of wire fraud is large enough to squeeze any of this behavior into. Participating in a scheme to defraud money. Yeah, no, wire fraud's out. So I don't think there's anything computer specific that would apply that I can think of. I don't understand what constitutes inciting sedition, insurrection based on what Trump said. I don't think anything Trump said, well, I won't go that far. It's less obvious with Trump. But when I was thinking about people inciting and planning, I'm thinking about much more explicit, much more overt statements that might be out there. I'm guessing what's out there, obviously, because I don't know if I have access to the evidence, but I'm just guessing. I'm making a reasonably educated guess. I'm guessing that some of these people use social networks or were messaging each other on WhatsApp or, iMessage or Facebook or had a Slack or Discord or were collaborating on 4chan or through Google Docs or, something like that. I'm guessing there was people coordinating. I'm guessing that some of the statements they made were pretty overt about their intentions to storm the Capitol / bring pipe bombs / disrupt the proceedings / whatever. So I'm speculating, but I'm making a reasonable speculation. One of the reasons it's reasonable is because I can at least infer from the underlying act, right? So the act, it's a matter of black letter law that the act itself can justify the intent. So you can, just because the act occurred, you can assume the intent. You don't have to if you're a juror, but you can. Because the act occurred, you can assume it was intentional. Or no, assume is the wrong word. You can conclude it was intentional if you want. So because the act occurred, I'm working backwards and trying to figure out what is true. I'm like, well, I know a lot of these people came from out of state. I know a lot of these people traveled. I know that there was planning and preparation for that travel because there had to be, find hotel rooms and such. I'm imagining that some of these people had plans about what to wear and bringing flags and so forth and so on. And maybe there was some explicit planning behind the scenes. And there was explicit things said. So when I was thinking about incitement, I wasn't thinking about Trump. I was thinking, yeah, there's probably some more explicit things that exist out there. It's a guess, but based on the actions that occurred, it's a reasonable guess. It's a reasonable suspicion, maybe. Something like that. I have a reasonable articulable suspicion. I saw a whole bunch of people do things. I'm thinking to myself, there might have been some planning and preparation behind that. It seems reasonable. I honestly don't understand the chat's anger either. I'm a little bit befuddled myself. I pointed out that some of these charges are a stretch. Some of them are a little bit more dubious. Some of them are less dubious. Some of them read pretty clearly on what happened. Some of them are a little bit more, especially when it comes to like plannings to kidnap or assassinate anybody or stuff like that. There's there's stuff that's dubious, but here's a whole bunch of things that might be applicable as our investigation unfolds. Here's what I think is the range of things that might apply, potentially in the end. We'll see how it goes. Man, I don't quite understand the chat's anger. It's like, you're stretching this. I was like, yeah, I kind of said that up front, and I also flagged it as I went, where I was like, yeah, this seems a little bit more of a stretch. Treason seems a little thin. Sedition looking a little bit better. So I don't know. Someone saying, let's hang them while inside the Capitol. See, that's not exactly encouraging. That might suggest intent. That could be seen as a statement of intent, by a potential jury someday. In the live stream, someone saying, let's hang them, could be perceived potentially by a jury as a statement of intent to assassinate and so forth and so on. Could be interpreted that way by a jury someday. I think I'm making reasonable guesses. Yeah. Do I think the Simpsons make predictions? No. They just have so many episodes at this point. It's one of those things where you make so many predictions, eventually you're going to be right occasionally. So the Simpsons, I don't think, have any particular cognitive power. It's just that they been on a long time and have written a lot of episodes, and sometimes it turns into reality. I don't think it's much more complicated than that. You want to give me props for the thumbnail? Thanks. I did make it myself for all of its glory. Can the DC Attorney General charge sedition? No. On federal property? No. The DC Attorney General has jurisdiction over the state of DC. The state of DC has its own criminal code, which we didn't discuss. I mentioned that at the front too. So there are some potential charges under the DC state criminal code, which will be heard by the DC courts, not the federal courts, but the DC courts, which are different. And so, yeah, the DC Attorney General can't charge sedition because that's a federal crime. And he doesn't have jurisdiction over federal crimes. He only has jurisdiction over crimes in DC. I know it's a little confusing, but yeah. Yeah. How many of these cases will be assigned to Sullivan? Probably none, but we'll have to see. Do I think the power to pardon should be reviewed? Well, I'm going to interpret that as, do I think it should be amended in the Constitution? And I don't know. I haven't really thought about it that hard. Most of the time, I don't have these kinds of concerns. But Trump is a bit unconventional. And so his ways of using the pardon power might be a bit concerning to me in this domain. Yeah. DC local courts. Every time I've said state, I always put quote marks because it's not a state. I know it's not a state. That's why every time I mention it, I'm always putting in quote marks because it's not really a state. But it's the easiest way of thinking about it because, first of all, a lot of people, even in the United States, don't fully understand it. And we have people from overseas. So the easiest way to think about it is just pretend it is, because it kind of gives you it gives you the right idea. But yes, that's why every time I mention DC state, I always put it in quote marks. Yeah, it's not a state. It's a federal district. It's weird. So, yeah. My video quality looks great. I'm very happy with the new lens. Can you be suspicious that some may not have been on Trump supporters? Oh yeah, I have no particular problem believing that. I don't believe at any point I said that they were Trump supporters. I mean, someone who's been watching this entire time will feel free to quote me back, but I don't believe at any point in this video I made any statements about the particular likelihood of allegiances of any of these people. I mean, someone will correct me if I made a statement contrary, but I don't believe at any point in this video I made any statement about these people's political allegiances or motivations. Did I? I don't remember making any statements about motivations or their allegiances. I never said they were Trump supporters. I never made any statements about their likelihood of supporting anything. Someone asked me about Trump's liability, and so I was like, okay, here's some things about Trump because it's a little less likely. But I don't recall ever saying that they were Trump supporters or they were left-wing or right-wing or what their motivations were. I'm just like, here's a whole bunch of things that happened. Here's a whole bunch of crimes that apply. So I never, do I have trouble believing that they're not Trump supporters? Not particularly. I just never made any statement that could be understood as me saying that they were. I was just saying, here's a whole bunch of things that happened. Based on their actions, here's a whole bunch of crimes that might apply. Here's what might have been true in reality, so forth and so on. So, yeah. Yeah. So because not for the least of reasons, it's legally irrelevant. So I didn't even think to mention it. Motive is not an element of the crime, almost always. The only exception really is hate crimes. And none of these are hate crimes as far as I can tell. But motive isn't an element of the crime. So their motive is irrelevant. Their political affiliation is irrelevant. Their partisanship is irrelevant. So I was just like, okay, here's a whole bunch of things that happen. Here's a whole bunch of federal crimes that exist. Here's some potential liability issues. It never even occurred to me to mention it because it's just not legally relevant. Has the Sedition Act been used to prosecute anyone since the late 1700s? Couldn't speak to the last time it was used. Probably not. But then again, sedition is relatively rare. Sedition doesn't happen every day. So I'm not sure when the last time sedition was used, but... If you do RICO, the organization matters. It only matters in so much as the organization exists. It doesn't matter beyond that. RICO applies to any corrupt organization. So it only matters in so much as the organization or group exists. It doesn't matter what the group's affiliation is. It doesn't matter what the group's motivation is. Right? So the RICO, the only thing about the organization that matters to RICO is that the organization exists, not their hopes and dreams, and also that it's an illegal enterprise. It's a corrupt enterprise because of rackets. So it's an organization that has become corrupt because of the rackets. That's RICO. So you have a group of people who are in a collection. So arguably that's an organization. Some of these activities could be rackets because racket covers so many things. You could probably find something there. And then you need 2 or more predicate acts. But yeah, so it only matters that they exist. It doesn't matter like beyond that. Law is pretty blind to political affiliations. It's like, yeah. It's just like, here's what you could win, Johnny, edition of civil law. He's like, yeah. Never said they were supporters of Trump. Never said they were opponents. Just said, here's a whole bunch of things you could win as part of your prizes. Here's a whole bunch of potential problems you have. Yeah. By definition, Kurt has provided the BLM riots were rife with criminality. The only difference with some of the riots, well, most of the BLM and most of the Antifa riots wouldn't trigger federal law. Now, the one big exception to that would be the courthouse in Portland. And I think there was something also dealing with a Homeland Security thing or something with one of their facilities. But for the most part, the BLM Antifa riots would predominantly trigger state law rather than federal law, to the extent that Antifa or Black Lives Matter damaged the federal courthouse or got inside the federal courthouse, disrupted proceedings, blah, 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 then federal law would apply. But as a general proposition, I think it's fair to say that most of the BLM, most of the Antifa stuff has not implicated federal law. And so we'd have to go read the relevant state laws, which obviously differ dramatically from place to place. Although RICO might be a thing because of the collective conspiracy. So there might be a RICO thing in there somewhere but then again, Antifa was always kind of corrupted in the first place. So I don't know, but maybe. At least you could think about it. Yeah. All the federal statutes destroyed or damaged. That's a very fair point. Yeah. So destroying federal statutes would be triggering the federal law. That's correct. Very fair. Absolutely true. I'm loving this lens, by the way. It was worth it. Statues of people, monuments to people, statue. Yeah, so the BLM and Antifa destroyed quite a lot of statues. Some of them are federal, so there's federal implications in a lot of that. Yeah, they make a hard time RICO with Hell's Angels. I think you're right. I think RICO is a stretch. I think I did make a point of mentioning when I discussed RICO, it was a very big stretch because I'm well aware of the difficulties with RICO. Yeah. So I did make a point of saying, yeah, I don't think this is going to work, but just to throw it out there, let's throw out the RICO. At least we can think about it. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, the question says statutes. Oh, I apologize. Then maybe I just misread it. 400 viewers? Excellent. RICO is fun to say. Did I miss a question about statutes? Probably. A follow-up to a pardon power. Based on recent experience, should the government review its traditions and actually write them down as law so they can't be abused? I'm not sure all of them can be written down as laws, but should they be? I don't know. I haven't really thought about it. Maybe we should just elect people who would be more likely to uphold the traditions. That'd be a valuable thing for the voters to consider. I don't know whether or not we should codify it into law or not. Maybe we should just vote for people to whom the issue would be irrelevant. Capitol police officer has died from yesterday's injuries. Well, depending on where the injuries arise from, now you have murder of a law enforcement officer. So we're back to 1101 now, or 1111, 18 USC 1111. I'll get it right eventually. So depending on exactly what he died from, that might be murder. So depending on exactly what people did, that might be murder. And because it's inherently dangerous and all the rest of it, you have some felony murder implications and so forth and so on. So yeah. So there might be at least one murder thing depending on exactly what killed him. What day is it today? Thursday? Yeah. So I'm going to do the documents from Toddy and KJ tonight after Emily goes off. And I think tomorrow, I'm going to try to get into the lawsuit with Toddy and the business partner. There's been enough people interested in that I think I want to cover that too. So we can at least try to cover that and see how that goes. I'd like to try to get that. Trying to find time for it has been really troubling. Does filing Article 25 or impeachment prevent pardoning? Impeachment, no. 25th, yes. If they invoke the 25th, it removes the power from the president instantly. Although that being said, the way the pardon power is written, the way it's written in the statute, apologies. Well, it's not really a statute, it's the Constitution. The way the pardon power is written, it could be read as preventing the president from pardoning during the impeachment. Because the clause says the president has the power to pardon for all offenses against the United States, except in cases of impeachment. Now, that can be read a couple different ways. The classic way of reading it is that pardoning someone does not absolve them of the consequences of pardoning, or the consequences of impeaching. So to just take a really easy example, suppose you want to impeach someone for bribery. Suppose the president pardons them. Okay, they no longer have criminal liability for bribery. But the fact that they have been pardoned does not prevent you from impeaching them for that bribery. So that's the classic way of interpreting it. So the pardon does not absolve you of the political consequence, because pardoning is a political consequence, not a legal consequence. It only has political implications. Those political implications are kind of severe in some cases, but it doesn't have criminal implications. So the classic way of reading it is X has been charged, X has been convicted of bribery. The president has pardoned them. Can we still impeach them anyway for the bribery? Yes, we can. Whatever else we can't do, we can still do that. However, you can also read the clause as saying the president can't pardon while the impeachment process is ongoing. That would be another way of understanding, except in the case of impeachment. It's never come up before because there's not been a lot of presidents impeached. I don't think the president has ever impeached. I don't think they've ever pardoned someone during the impeachment process because it doesn't usually last that long. But it's unclear at best. The 25th Amendment is clear. That's clear. The moment the 25th Amendment is invoked, the president no longer has any of its power. It's instant. So that's one of the advantages of the 25th Amendment. And also, they can keep him out of office for the rest of his term because Congress has to resolve the issue within 21 days, and there's just not 21 days left. So they could invoke the 25th Amendment and remove him from power, and he's just not present for the rest of the term. Well, no, actually, in the strictest possible technical sense, he's present. He just doesn't have any power. It's the way the 25th Amendment is worded. That's so pedantic. But in the strictest possible sense, he remains present. He just doesn't have any power. If we want to be really precise with our language. Anyways. Yeah. Oh, yeah, he can be impeached twice. No problem. And you can impeach him once he's out of office. I know. You wouldn't think so, but you can impeach him because impeachment comes with penalties, including the ability to disqualify someone from office. So you can impeach him even after he leaves office. He would also lose his, not that he cares probably, because he has more than enough money, but he'd lose his ancillary benefits. He would lose his pension. He would lose Secret Service protection and stuff like that. So you can impeach him even when he leaves office. It's true. Yeah, because it's political, not legal. And you can disqualify him from ever having office again. So if they want to impeach him, they can. Yeah. And you can impeach someone an infinite number of times. It's a political process. You can do it as many times as you want. Yeah, so it's fine. There's no double jeopardy provision for impeachment, if that's what you're thinking. You can even impeach him for the same thing you impeached him for the first time, because there's no double jeopardy provision. It's not legal. It's political. So you can impeach him for the exact same thing you did the first time and just come to a different conclusion. You can do that too. So, yeah. It's like, yeah, he was acquitted. We could change our mind though, because double jeopardy doesn't apply because it's not criminal. Are preemptive pardons possible? No, because the way this pardon power is written, it only applies to offenses against the United States. And before you commit it, there's no offense against the United States. You can't pardon someone in advance. That seems pretty clear. Yeah, you can impeach the president after he leaves office. You can do that. Yeah. You can do that. Can he pardon himself? No one knows the answer. No one knows the answer because no one's ever tried and no one's ever tested it before. The way the language is written suggests the answer is yes, but no one knows for sure. The way the clause is written suggests the answer is yes. He can pardon himself, which also makes sense in sort of the way it derives because it derives from the power of the king. It's a power of the monarchy. And well, no, the king isn't liable under the law in the first place anyway because of sovereign immunity. So the queen can't commit crimes, but if she could pardon herself because she has the authority. So yeah, if you look at its origins, the answer strongly suggests yes, he can. So they can keep trying until they get the votes? Yeah, they can. Yeah. If Pence resigned, would the 25th be impossible? Yes. Without a vice president? Yes. Can you impeach someone who's dead? I don't know. I don't know what the point would be if they're already dead. I don't know what the point would be. I'm not sure. I never thought about it before. Can he pardon people whose identities are unknown? Sure. As long as you're identifying them in a way. Yeah. As long as you're identifying who you're pardoning. Yeah, you can make global pardons. Wasn't it Carter Wasn't it Carter who pardoned everyone who dodged the draft from Vietnam? I think that was Carter. And yeah, you don't know who all those people are, and they might have been hiding in basements. But they issued a pardon for all the draft dodgers for Vietnam, all of them. It's a perfectly valid pardon, even if you don't know who they are. Oh, and then of course it was Johnson who pardoned all the Confederate soldiers. So it's like, yeah, they might be hiding in their parents' basement too. But yeah, you can pardon them too. That's fine. You don't have to know who they are. You just have to be able to identify them in some way that would make legal sense. So yeah, you could just say, pardon all the people who, entered the Capitol building on January the 6th. That would probably do the trick. Was that Nixon who did that? Pardoned all the draft dodgers? I don't think so. I mean, the Vietnam War was still ongoing when Nixon was in office. I mean, he might have pardoned other people, but yeah. Impeachment of Trump ends when Biden is sworn in. It doesn't have to. You can impeach someone after they leave office. Yeah. And take away their ancillary benefits. And Bush Sr. pardoned all the Iran Contra people. That's right. Is this a channel education with Kurt, not Kurt, telling us everything will certainly go down? Yeah, I mean, I can only make reasonable predictions to varying degrees of certainty based on my education and experience. But yeah, I can't tell you with certainty how things will happen. I can be like, well, here's things that's possible, and here's relative likelihoods of those happening. But yeah, it was Carter. I thought that. So could a pardon be for all crimes committed in 2020? Yes. All federal crimes, at least. But yes, you could write a pardon that way. Sure. Yeah. I thought those who get a pardon must admit their guilt. Well, this is ambiguous. Okay. All right, let me read the exact language from the Supreme Court. Because the language seems clear on its face, but I don't think the Supreme Court really was trying to say what it actually wrote. So this is a personal legal opinion. (1915) Yeah, Burdick versus United States 1915 was made it clear that you can pardon someone before conviction. So you can pardon before being charged, before conviction. That's fine. Is it the same case that said about the admission of guilt? Oh, that's why I'm reading the syllabus. That's why I can't find the language I need. Blah, 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 blah. Blah, blah, blah. Okay. Here's what the Supreme Court, this is Burdick versus United States 1915, U.S. Supreme Court. So this was dealing with whether or not the president could pardon someone before conviction. That was the principal issue, and the Supreme Court said yes. And then as part of their decision, they said, this brings us to a difference between legislative immunity and a pardon. So the legislature can make something retroactively not a crime or grant immunity. They can't make something more criminal, but they can make it less criminal. So that's what they're talking about. What's the difference between the legislature giving you immunity by, for example, making it retroactively not criminal, and a pardon? The Supreme Court continues. These differences are substantial. The latter, that's the pardon, carries an imputation of guilt, acceptance, a confession of it. The former has no such imputation or confession. It is the unobtrusive act of the law given a protection against a sinister use of testimony, not like a pardon requiring him to confess his guilt in order to avoid conviction of it. So there's language in here that certainly suggests very strongly that accepting a pardon is accepting of guilt. I think what the Supreme Court was saying, and this is a personal opinion because the language is pretty clear on its own terms, but what I think the Supreme Court was saying is that it could be understood to do that, not that it did do that. I think the Supreme Court was saying that accepting the pardon, that a person could refuse a pardon because to accept a pardon could be understood by somebody as an acceptance of guilt. So I think what they were saying or trying to say was, in accepting a pardon, a person might feel that that's a ding on their character because they feel that a person could look at that and say, well, you're accepting guilt by accepting the pardon. I think is what they're trying to say. I don't think they actually were trying to say it makes you guilty. I think they were trying to say it could be understood to be that way and you have a right to refuse to protect your character. But the language is what it is. So it depends a little bit how you interpret that language, but that's my interpretation for all it's worth. I've never clerked for a judge. No, I never had the experience. There are secret pardons? I don't know if there is any secret pardons. I don't know how you know if there are secret pardons or not. Can you unpardon someone? No. Once it's accepted, you can't. Once it's accepted, it's complete. Do you have to have state crimes for a pardon? Do you have to state the crimes for pardon? No, not necessarily. It's usually done that way to make it more narrow, but you don't have to. You can just make it like, I pardon you for anything committed on this day. Whatever it is. You don't have to name them. Yeah, so it's yeah. So the language of the U.S. Supreme Court is a little bit. I don't think they were saying that it admits guilt. I think they were saying it's implying guilt, but the language is a little bit, yeah. Language is a little bit, I think it's what they were trying to say. Removing all benefits if an impeachment happens after they leave office. Couldn't that apply to Secret Service protection? Yes, it absolutely would. Yes. If you impeach and convict President Trump, even after he leaves office, then one of the consequences would be he would lose Secret Service protection. Correct. Now, it probably doesn't matter that much for President Trump because he has enough money to provide for his own security. But yes, that would be a consequence that would roll. He'd lose his pension. He'd lose Secret Service protection. He loses, I think the ex-presidents get to fly for free on like Air Force planes. So he can't fly on Air Force planes anymore. That's a bummer. There's some other ancillary stuff, but yeah. Why did I not go into con law? Kind of wish I should have at this point. But hey, I'm doing it now, right? Because I'm teaching it, so it's fun. Could someone be civil liability if they accept pardon? Yes, sure, no problem. Because civil liability is completely separate from criminal in every possible sense. I mean, you can be found innocent of the crime and found civilly liable. It happened to O.J. Simpson. O.J. Simpson was found not guilty, and then he was found civilly liable. The civil liability is it's a completely different standard. It's a much lesser standard too. So yeah, it doesn't absolve you of any civil liability you might have. Pensions, what are those? Not a lot of people have them anymore, but president gets one. There's always time to take up con law. Yeah. Well, one of the nice things about this channel is I get to teach con law to 400 people who are watching me right now. And also criminal law at the same time. And other things. But yeah, I get to talk about other stuff. This is fun. I get to talk about things I like to an audience who likes me and sometimes gives me super chats and stuff. It's great. I love it. This is pretty cool. I'm really hoping this channel takes off big time. I love it. I love this to be full time. That makes me very, very happy. Please make me a happy Blackleaf. Please find me, 5 times many subs as I have right now. That'd be great. Maybe 6 or 7, but yeah, I love this to be full time. That'd be awesome. I'm looking forward to doing my taxes here because I might have to write the IRS a check because they haven't taken any withholdings from the IRS right now. So that's gonna be a pain in the ass. What's con law? Constitutional law. It's constitutional law. So yeah, we'll be taking cases based on the Constitution. First Amendment cases, Second Amendment cases, Fourth Amendment cases. That's constitutional law. Capitol Police Chief officers resigning. That's kind of sad. Why did I think the former president stopped getting lifetime Secret Service protection? Your memory is actually very, very good. Brenda Lee Lyndon Carpenter. Brenda Lee Lyndon Carpenter gets the prize for having an incredibly good memory. This is a thing that happened, and then it unhappened. But yes, this is a thing that happened. When did it happen? It was during George W. Bush's term. I think. I'm pretty sure. It was during George W. Bush's term. One of the things Congress did is they said that for any president that follows Bush, because I guess they thought it was unfair to make it retroactively penalty for other people. But they said for all presidents that follow Bush, the Secret Service will only provide 10 years of protection. And then Obama got elected and Congress changed its mind and they changed it back to lifetime. But Brenda Lee Lyndon Carpenter gets the prize for having an exceptionally good memory. That is a thing that happened. Good work. Good work. Yeah. Yeah. Is not guilty a lower legal standard than actual finding of innocence? Oh, actual finding of innocence is almost impossible in the United States. You don't get that as a normal criminal trial. You'd only get that in post-conviction proceedings. The only way in the United States a person would be found actually innocent is if they were already convicted, and then you're trying to undo that. So finding someone actually innocent is unbelievably rare in the United States. It's not something you can be found at trial. At trial, your options are guilty and not guilty. To find someone actually innocent in the United States, you'd have to convict them first. And then you'd have to show, well, they're actually innocent as part of post-conviction proceedings. So it doesn't come up very much. Really liked my episode with Nate when you guys were using C-SPAN to go over the speeches by Romney and Graham. Thank you. That stream turned out a lot better than I thought. It's good. Former VPs lose it? Couldn't say that. I'm pretty sure their kids lose it at 25. I think. The kids don't get lifetime. I think the spouse does. I think the spouse does, but I think the kids lose it at 25. That's a rough birthday, man. Am I familiar with Tom Woods? No, off the top of my head, no, I'm sorry. Who's Babbitt's? Shooting of Babbitt. Who's Babbitt's? Other than pardons, is there anything Trump could do before leaving office that sticks and can't be immediately undone? I can't think of anything off the top of my head. E1 says, I don't think impeachment after office has finished would strip it as the original act requiring it and not just the authorized unless removed from office. I don't know how that would be parsed. I don't know how that would be parsed. Oh, that rabbit was the name of the woman shot. I mean, I don't know enough about how the shooting occurred to be able to opine as to whether or not the shooting was just or not. I actually have no clue. I haven't heard anything. I haven't even heard rumors yet about how the shooting came to be. So I have no clue as to whether or not that shooting was justified or legal or proper. I don't know yet. So I'm not going to opine about that. I don't know anything about how that happened. She's climbing through a broken window. I don't know enough about what happened in terms to be able to adjudicate that right now. There are 2 videos of the shooting. Nate did a breakdown of the shooting. I'll probably have to watch the video and do a breakdown. I'll do it at some point. I don't know if I should do that right now, though. I probably should do that later. Would it be good for me to do it right now? I'm going to get flagged by YouTube for this, aren't I? Let me see if I can find video of this, and we can try to see what we're looking at. Let's see. See if this is what I need before I put it on StreamYard. It looks like it. It's impossible to see anything from this video. It is impossible to see anything from that video. That video is taken so far away, I can't see anything that's happening in that video. Is that the only video that exists? That video is taken so far away, I can't see jack shit. Yeah, I can't see jack shit in that video. Yeah, don't forget to like and subscribe. If anyone is on my Discord, could you tag me with a better video that shows a better angle? Because I had this angle from way down the hall. I can't see jack shit about what's happening in that video. So can someone tag me with a better video, please? All right. Sunder gave me a video. Let's try this one. That's hard to see that too, man. It's kind of hard to see exactly what's going on too. Ooh, that's a little bit hard to see exactly what's happening. I wish I had like frame by frame or something. It's a little bit hard to see exactly what's happening. I mean, the angle sucks. Let me see if I can share this. And also, I can't really see what happened in the run up to it. You know, I can't see like what warnings were given in the run up to it. It's so hard to figure out what's going on. You know, when we're trying to adjudicate these things, we try to adjudicate them as fairly as we know how to do. And the video is so bad. I have too many windows open. Okay. Allow that. Okay. So I don't think I get audio. I don't think I get any audio because of the way I'm because I'm in Firefox, and I don't think I can share audio unless I'm in Chrome. Unless I can do. Wait, if I remove the screen, can I add the audio back in? Let's find out. So add this, share screen, do this, add this. No, I cannot share audio. So we'll do it with, I mean, yeah. So you can't get much audio. You can't get any audio because I'm in Firefox instead of Chrome. One of the disadvantages to streaming within streaming with StreamYards, which was a little bit easier today, so I gave it a shot. Now let's see, where's my window? Okay, great. So let's make that bigger. Now this is not really helpful to see exactly what's going on. It's a little hard to see exactly what's going on. So we see this guy with the gun over here on the left with the glove. Then there's yelling, and he fires. And this woman, this is the person he hit up here on the upper right. So you don't get to see very much of her. She's halfway through this barrier, climbing over something. And that's the person that was hit. So I'll go back and we'll just do that real time, real fast. Yeah, so it's a little hard to see exactly what's going on, and also the run up to it. It's a little bit hard to see what's going on. So this is a short clip, right? So I don't know what happened before this. I don't know what warnings were given. I don't know what other force was used. And so I don't know a lot of information that would help me assess this scene and trying to adjudicate this, right? So sometimes you have more information, sometimes you have less. And I have like 2 seconds, 3 seconds of lead up, and that's all I got. And so it's very difficult for me to say, well, it's justified, it's unjustified, what was going on, what warnings were given, what force was used, and so forth and so on. So I think I'm going to have to pass on adjudicating that one at this time, because I don't have enough context. Yeah. There's not enough information to make an adjudication yet. They're protecting VIPs and yelling, "Stay back." Yeah, the use of force might be authorized. It's just very difficult to make a snap decision. Nate has his videos with 2 different angles. All right, so let's take a quick look at Nate's video, I guess, and see if we can get anything more than what we have and be able to say anything more definitive about it. I try to be as fair as possible to both sides, right? I'm critical of police. You guys know that. When I need to be, and I'm critical of the other sides. When I always try to be fair. I try to adjudicate based on, information. It's a good thing. It doesn't mean I'm always right, but trying, making an effort. Let's see if we can find Nate's video and see if it gets us anywhere. $3.99. Thank you for the hugs. I appreciate that. That's very kind of you. So this is a stream from 5 hours ago, I guess. Oh, it's 55 minutes long. So let's see if we can find where this video is within his stream. So he has the stream. We has the one he just saw. Okay, all right, so we have a slightly different angle here. All right, so we have a slightly different angle. So let's put that up on screen real fast. So yeah, and that's where she gets shot after climbing through the window. She's climbing through the window after being told not to come through, trying to protect VIPs. That might be a fully legitimate shooting. Posing an imminent threat. I mean, that might be a legitimate shooting. Yeah, that might be a legitimate shooting. Tennessee v. Garner. Tennessee v. Garner dealt with a fleeing suspect. This is not Tennessee versus Garner. Does it pose an imminent threat to death, or does it pose an imminent threat sufficient for police force? Probably, especially in this situation, because the police are telling them to like stand back. You know, probably. I mean, on one level, I mean, on just a very practical level, just putting aside the legal for just 1 second, can we just put aside the legal for 1 second and just say there is a guy with a gun, it is drawn, and it is pointed through the window that you're planning to climb through. And this guy says, stay back, stay back. You know, self-preservation probably should kick in at some point along this equation. Can we just put aside the law for just 1 second and be like, there was a guy with a gun pointed through the window, yelling, stay back, and, you know, you were kind of well aware that you were breaking the law and trespassing and breaking, entering, all the rest of it. So there's that. Just on a purely practical level, I don't have to think the police suck all the time, right? I'm not obligated to think the police are always wrong, right? I can think the police are okay without, and then someone accusing me of being a bootlicker and, life sucks. But yeah, do I think this is a good shoot? Well, probably. Yeah. I mean, based on what we can see in the limited shot, yeah, seems okay. Yeah, sorry. Where's my hat? I don't wear the hat always on stream, and I also can't wear it with these things. The police did let them get in. That's true. That is a problem. So that is a part of the police sucking. It's letting them get in. That's fair. That's fair. Could she hear orders? Probably. I mean, she was at the front, and I'm sure they were yelling it for some time. To stay back, get out, stay back. I'll take a flyer and say she probably heard at some point that she should get back and leave. That seems like something she probably heard at some point. Stay back, yeah. Did she hear it at exactly that second? Probably not, but she hear at some point prior? Yeah. Does she know that she realized that she's trying to pass through a way and there's, this is bad? There's a self-preservation angle here somewhere. Yeah. The guy next to her said they heard it, so we can infer she heard it. Yeah, climbing through the window. If you climb through the window of let me just say this. If you climb through the window of my house, I'm going to perceive that as an imminent threat against my life. If you climb through the window of my house, I'm going to perceive that as an imminent threat. If you're doing it when my gun is already drawn and I'm saying, get back, and you do it anyway, I'm going to even more perceive it as a threat. So there's that. There's that. Yeah. So we have, should we reach the impeachment thing? Why not? We have some time. Emily's not starting for 30 minutes. I'll be the warm-up back for Emily. Someone go over to Emily's chat. Do me a favor. Someone go over to Emily's chat right now and tell the Emily's chat that Uncivil Law is live and is basically doing a warm-up act for Emily. See if I can steal some of Emily's chat over here for the next half hour. Thanks. All right, let's go take. I'll quit when she starts because again, I don't like to compete against my fellow lawyers if I don't have to. Some of them make it impossible. Like R&R Law Group here, I'm going to stream every day at 7. I mean, brother, you gotta make it possible. You can't help a brother out. But I try to avoid it, as much as I can. Sometimes I can't, because sometimes I got something to say and I don't want to wait. But all else being equal, I'll at least, try. You aren't looking at the right video, murder. I mean, I looked at 2 different videos and I don't know what you want from me. I don't know what you want from me. Emily starts in an hour. She starts at 7:30 instead of 7 o'clock. You think you want me to agree with you is what you really want from me. And I don't want to agree with you, just for the hell of it. Where is the impeachment papers? Someone tied me with them. Somewhere. Something. Law related news discussion. Okay. Let me steal that. Twitter is my source. Is it just one page? Well, it's just like just one article. Okay. So the draft, fine. 7:30. Okay, great. So we have the qualified immunity should not apply. Qualified immunity definitely applies. It's not even a close call. So let's read this impeachment resolution by Mr. Whomever. Resolved that Donald John Trump, President of the United States, is impeached for high crimes and misdemeanors, and that the following articles of impeachment be exhibited to the U.S. Senate. Article of impeachment exhibited by the House of Representatives of the United States of America in the name of itself and the people of the United States of America against Donald John Trump, President of the United States, in maintenance and support of his impeachment against him for high crimes and misdemeanors. The Constitution provides the House of Representatives shall have the sole power of impeachment. The President shall be removed from office on impeachment for and conviction of treason, bribery, or other high crimes and misdemeanors. In his conduct of the office of President of the United States and in violation of his constitutional oath faithfully to execute the office of President of the United States and to the best of his ability preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution of the United States, and in violation of his constitutional duty to take care of the laws be faithfully executed. Donald John Trump engaged in high crimes and misdemeanors by willfully inciting violence against the government on the United States in that on January 6, 2021, pursuant to the 12th Amendment of the United States Constitution, the Vice President of the United States, the House of Representatives, and Senate met at the United States Capitol for a joint session of Congress to count the votes of the Electoral College. Shortly before the joint session commenced, President Trump addressed a crowd of his political supporters nearby. There, he reiterated false claims that he won this election and he won it by a landslide. He also willfully made statements that encouraged and foreseeably resulted in imminent lawless action at the Capitol. Incited by President Trump, a mob unlawfully breached the Capitol, injured law enforcement personnel, menaced members of Congress and the Vice President, interfered with the joint session's solemn constitutional duty, and engaged in violent, deadly, destructive, and seditious acts. President Trump's conduct on January 6, 2021 was consistent with his prior efforts to subvert and obstruct the certification of the results of the 2020 presidential election. Those prior results include, but are not limited to, a phone call on January 2nd, 2021, when President Trump urged Georgia's Secretary of State, Brad Raffensperger, to find enough votes to overturn the Georgia presidential election and threatened Mr. Raffensperger if he failed to do so. In all this, President Trump gravely endangered the security of the United States and its institutions of government. He threatened the integrity of the democratic system, interfered with the peaceful transfer of power, and imperiled a coordinate branch of government. He therefore betrayed the trust as president to manifest injury. Wherefore, President Trump, by such conduct, has demonstrated that he will remain a threat to the national security, democracy, and constitution if allowed to remain in office, as acting in a manner grossly incompatible with self-governance and rule of law. President Trump thus warrants impeachment and trial, removal from office, and disqualification. Well, I give them points for not going back to Russiagate and relitigating that. As I said, they could, but it would have poisoned the will. So good on them for having some self-restraint and limiting it to the immediate issue. So we'll see what that does, but that's a thing that happened. So, okay. Yeah. Broadcast to me as the warning up. Well, thank you to all the Emily chat people who are here. That's fine. Yeah. This has been crazy. It's only day 7 of 2021. That's fine. I do take some comfort in knowing that this will be over on January the 20th at noon. So that's 12 and a half days. So, you know, I'm ready to move on as a Republican. I'm very ready to move on to other things. President Trump has been okay. President Trump has been good on policy. And you may disagree with that assessment. I mean, it is political. But he's been pretty conventionally conservative Republican on policy. It's not to say I agree with everything he's done. It's not to say that. But on policy, he's been pretty good. I also think that's good that he didn't start another stupid war. That's a plus. It's nice that we didn't start another war. That's a good thing. So we'll give credit for that, right? And I think personally, although people might disagree with this, I think he's handled the situation with China fairly well. You know, I could definitely quibble with it for sure, but I think he's handled it fairly well. And he got 3 peace deals done in the Middle East, which isn't nothing. So his foreign policy has been fairly good, in my opinion. His domestic policy has been fairly good, in my opinion. However, his rhetoric, yeah. And the language he's using is incendiary, and it's certainly not convincing anyone who might be thinking and trying to look at these issues. He's not winning hearts and minds, I don't think, from the unconverted, which is not great, because it's not like conservatives and Republicans don't have strong philosophical roots that go deep. We can go deep into our philosophical roots of these ideas. And you can sell people on them. And Trump is not doing that. He's driving people away. And he's also fracturing the party. So there's all that stuff. So it's annoying as a Republican. I'm ready to move on to other things in a pretty big way. Joe Biden will be fine. He's not my ideal candidate. I'm not particularly happy that the Democrats have the Senate, which was a completely unforced error, by saying the election was fraudulent in no small part, encouraging Republicans not to vote, basically. So that was a completely unforced error. However, as long as the filibuster remains in place, and I don't know that they have enough votes to overturn the filibuster, as long as the filibuster remains in place, they won't be able to get through the worst excesses of their legislation. They will be able to get the judges they want, which is kind of annoying. But I think it will be a kind of, and also they'll be able to put in place, they'll be able also through regulation undo some things that the Trump administration did. Probably undo Betsy DeVos's Title IX stuff, which I really don't think they should, but I think that's what they'll do, which is very, very annoying. I'd rather not. Probably do some more stuff relating to transgender sports or something that I will disapprove of. Probably do some stuff with critical race theory that I'll disapprove of. But on the grand scheme of things, I think we'll be fine. And I think the Republicans could be in a very good position 4 years from now. Because, I mean, Kamala Harris, Joe Biden won't seek a second term. I think there's very little chance of that. Kamala Harris only had 2% of the vote when she dropped out of the primaries. She was a very unpopular candidate. Now, she will pick up support, so that 2% is going to rise. But, you know, even the Democrats don't really like her. She didn't have a base of support. She dropped out before her own home state. She was losing so badly. So I think, you know, while Harris will pick up some support, she's a weak candidate. And I don't think she's going to do anything in the next 4 years that's going to massively change that impression. I mean, substantively. She'll grow on people just naturally, but I don't think she's going to do anything that would change the equation otherwise than I'd expect. So I think she's going to come into 2024 as a particularly weak candidate. And I think the Republicans have a pretty decent chance of running someone that will beat her. So I think that's what we're facing. The only other thing that would change all that, of course, is if Biden doesn't finish his term and Kamala Harris takes over midterm. And then she's running as an incumbent, which might happen. It might not. But we'll see what happens. But yeah, I'm ready to move on from Trump. I'm really ready to move on. I was never a huge Trump guy. I liked his policies fine, but the man is hard to like on a personal level, especially if you consider yourself a thinking person. You might like it for the culture war stuff, and that's fine. But if you're looking for the philosophy, and you're looking for the deep thought of conservative Republican ideology, you're looking for the philosophical rationales for it. Trump is not exactly your guy for that purpose. There are better candidates who would be more effective at spreading the message about what the values of Republican conservatism is. And so, I'm ready to move on. So I'm very much eagerly looking forward to January 20th at noon so that I can, move on and hopefully forget Trump exists and we can all move on with our lives. That's kind of what I'm hoping for. I think Twitter and Facebook will be doing us I think Twitter and Facebook will be doing the Republicans a massive favor by banning Trump. First of all, we get to bitch about it. So that's good. We get to bitch about it. And the fact that he's not sucking up all the oxygen means that we'll be more effective. So it's actually to our benefit. It's going to happen, but that will in no way prevent us from bitching about it, that it happened. We get to scream. We get to have our cake and eat it too. We get to have him shut up, and we get to complain about the fact that he's been forced to shut up. It's nice. Yeah. So I'm looking forward to all those things happening. That's good news for us side. So that's what I think. Yeah. 2 years in a day. Yeah, 2 years in a day might be exactly what it might be. 2 years and 15 minutes. I don't know. We'll see. So, yeah, I think Harris is very unlikable. So I don't think she'll really go anywhere. If they can't undo the filibuster, they can't pack the court. Presumably they can't add states. We'll see. We'll see. But I'm ready to move on from Trump and move on to other things. I think Biden will be a very moderate for Democrats. I mean, I'm not going to be a fan of what he does. But in the grand scheme of Democrats, I think he's going to be a fairly moderate Democrat. It could be a lot worse for the Republicans in terms of policy. We might be able to get this through this without it turning into a complete disaster. I think he's going to be kind of a milquetoast candidate, milquetoast governance. The cabinet picks so far seem to reflect that. So I'm not super worried about it. I'm not, it's not the ideal, but I'm not as worried about it as what else could be. So I think Trump is fracturing the party. I think some of that will disappear with Trump. I think as the oxygen goes away, we'll be better off. So we'll see. I did vote for him for a second term for what it's worth, because I thought that, whatever damage he's done from his rhetoric had already been done and he was better on policy. I didn't vote for him the first time. I voted third party the first time. I did vote for him for re-election. But all that being said, I'm not sad to see him go, because especially at this point, I mean, some things have changed since November to now, like Trump being so obstinate with the election and claiming fraud and being so divisive, and even if it's not legally incitement, what he said at his rally with we're going to march on the Capitol, I'm going to go with you, and so all the rest of it, it's not good. And so I'm ready for it to be over. I'm ready to move on to other things now. I've accepted it. I'm at peace. I'm ready to move on. Let's move on. That'd be great. That'd be just great. So yeah. Why wouldn't he seek re-election? I mean, he's already said he's a transition candidate. He's all but, I think he might have actually said he's not going to seek re-election. He might have actually said that. I couldn't swear to it, but I think he did. I mean, he's old and he's a one-termer. He wants to be a transition for Kamala. He's gonna let Kamala run and is gonna fade away with his one term. So are the people terrorists? I mean, under the letter of the law, domestic terrorists? I think so. We covered the definitions earlier. And the Democrats also have fractured problems. The Democrats also have fracturing problems. They also have problems on their far left, and they have internal divisions. So I'm not sure who's worse off in terms of internal divisions between the Democrats and Republicans. At this exact moment, the Republicans are probably worse off than the Democrats, but the Republicans are better about in-group loyalty as a general proposition because it's a conservative trait for in-group loyalty. So I think as someone else takes the oxygen, that it will be okay. That's kind of what I think is going to happen. Who do you want the next Republican candidate to be? I know she's a very unpopular figure among the Republicans, but personally, and there seems to be a lot of people who don't like her for some reason. But for me, it's why can I not remember her name right now? Nikki Haley. Yeah, Nikki Haley. Former governor of South Carolina. She was the UN ambassador for Trump. A lot of Republicans don't like her. I like her, not for least reasons that she's a Clemson grad. Go Tigers. So, that's good. But yeah, I like Nikki Haley for 2024. She'd also be hilarious in a race against Kamala because they're both of Indian descent. So that'd be hilarious. You have two women, both of Indian descent, fighting to be president. It would just be fun for the optics of it. But I like Nikki Haley. I think she'd be a very good choice. She did wonders for the state as far as I'm concerned as governor of South Carolina. I think she did a very, very good job as governor of South Carolina. And I thought she did a very good job as UN ambassador with trying times as Trump as president. She did a very, very good job despite that. So I think she's my favorite candidate. But a lot of the Republicans seem to hate her for some reason. I'm not quite sure why, but I like her. So Nikki Haley is my choice for 2024. Has the president ever run for a second term but with a new VP candidate? Is that even possible? Well, Grover Cleveland did it. I don't know if he had a different VP candidate the second time, but Grover Cleveland ran 2 non-consecutive terms. He was 22nd and 24th president. I don't know if he had different VPs each time, but yeah, he could run for a non-consecutive term. It's happened before. Someone's won before. I think you're too optimistic the GOP isn't about to split her. I might be. Trump has done some serious damage to internal cohesion of the party. So I might be too optimistic. That is definitely possible. Yeah. I guess I'm hopeful. We'll see if I'm right. What about the eye patch guy, Dan Crenshaw? Dan Crenshaw's a cool choice. I like Dan Crenshaw. He's a cool choice. Yeah, former Navy SEAL. He's a straight shooter. He could get some momentum. Dan Crenshaw. Yeah, he could get some momentum. He might be a good choice. Tulsi, I do like Tulsi Gabbard. I liked her and Yang in the Democrat Party primaries. So I did like Tulsi. She had a non-intervention as far as policy, which is something I liked about Trump as well. So that's kind of what I'm going with. Tulsi Gabbard for next Republican. She might very well wind up on the Republican ticket. That would be hilarious. Like a Nikki Haley, Tulsi Gabbard ticket. That'd be hilarious. I mean, it'd be kind of happened before. Joe Lieberman ran with Gore, and he's independent / Democrat / lots of things. So yeah, it kind of has happened before. Lieberman is kind of like that with Gore. So yeah, I could see that happening. Nikki Haley, Tulsi Gabbard versus Kamala Harris. I'd vote for that. I'd vote for that for sure. Tulsi Gabbard wouldn't win in the primaries, but as a VP candidate, she might pull some Democrat votes. I love it, man. Yeah, that works for me. Yeah, Haley and Harris, two women with Indian heritage. So yeah, they won't be able to play the race card. They won't be able to play they won't be able to play the sex card. They won't be able to play the race card. What will they have to talk about? You know? Candace Owens? No, she won't win. She doesn't have the support for that. And I don't know. She's yeah, no. I'm gonna pass on that. Sarah Palin calling for the formation of another party. Crenshaw was born in the United States, wasn't he? He did. Yeah, I don't know if Crenshaw's parents were U.S. citizens, but he was born in the United States. I see Kamala talking about Hanukkah? I did see Kamala talking about Hanukkah. That was extremely cringy. That was very, very cringy. Yeah. Yeah, it was very interesting stuff. Internet commentator said hello. Hello. I think I did up the all caps count to make it a little less aggressive. So smile. I'm smiling. I'm a happy guy. Was the greatest mistake in the original Constitution the Bill of Rights? I propose first past the post. Yeah, that's a good one. Where we don't have some sort of preferential voting system. That's probably a good one. If I were going to make like changes to the Constitution, some sort of preferential voting system would definitely be high on the list. And I'd also make the districts to be required to be maximally compact, which is just a pure mathematical model at that point. So the way you do, there's maps you can find online that do this. But basically what you do is when you're dividing the states, you make every district as compact as possible by area. So you make the area of each district. Is it area? Or is it like the circumference? Or is it the ratio between the two? Whatever. Because the circle is as good as it gets. I can tell you that. The circle is as good as it gets because that's the optimal shape. So you want to make every district as circle E as possible. So that's a mathematical operation, right? And you have computers that can do that work. So you just have, and so the districts would have to be even in population. They have to be equal. They have to be equal in population. One person, one vote. Districts have to be equal. They have to be contiguous, and then they would also, which means that you can't have a district split up into two parts. You can't have districts that go across, that split up with enclaves and enclaves. It has to be one contiguous part. That's a requirement now, incidentally. That's one of the reasons you have the maps they do, because they also be contiguous. Anyways, so you make them maximally compact. So you just tell the computer, if you're like saying for, some state that has 20 electoral, Pennsylvania, you say to the computer, divide Pennsylvania into 20 equal parts, such that 20 equal parts by population, such that every district is as maximally compact as possible. And you're going to come up with like one result. It's just mathematically derived. And so that would be great. I love to do that. And I love to do preferential voting. That would solve many problems, in my opinion. Yeah. Yeah, that would prevent gerrymandering because it's just a pure mathematical model. And devise the most maximally compact district. And the way to calculate that's easy enough. You just take the compactness of every district, which is measurable, because you divide the perimeter. I think you divide the perimeter by the area. I think is what you do. Divide the perimeter by the area. So a circle is as good as it can be. The circle has the smallest theoretical. The circle has the smallest perimeter for its area. I'm pretty sure. So, yeah, you just take the compactness of every single district, and you average them together. And then, like, okay, is there a map that the average is less, or closer to 1? So you just keep calculating until you find the map that you can't beat, and then you're there. Yay! Nice. You can run without a VP. I guess technically you could run without a VP. I just don't know if it's ever happened. But yeah, I guess technically you could run within a VP without a VP. Damn lawyers and math. Yeah, well, my math skills used to be better, but it's definitely faded away. Hi from PA. Well, hi, Leanne. How are you doing? Hexagonal? No, but nice try. Would Puerto Rico be better for either party? In the short term, Democrats. In the long term, I don't know. It's not obvious. It's not a infinitely predictably reliable Democratic state. Especially with the way the Hispanic vote has been going. I think to be Democrat today, it's Democrat now, but I think the Republicans have a pretty decent chance in the long term of getting Puerto Rico. How long term, I don't know, but I think it's definitely winnable it's workable. Usually lawyers can't math. Well, I had a degree in computer science, which required calculus and other sort of mathematical degrees. So I mean, my undergrad degree was fairly math heavy. There was one point where I thought about going into cryptography. I decided I couldn't quite handle that level of math, but yeah, I mean, I took calculus and matrix algebra and linear equations and all kinds of crap. So I don't have to use those skills as much, but I definitely had some math skill in there at some point. Proportional representation. Yeah. Proportional representation was what they meant. So instead of Puerto Rico, instead of when they said PR, would PR voting be better for either party? Proportional voting? I'm not sure proportional voting is constitutional. I don't know how you could do it constitutionally. I suppose we're amending the Constitution anyway if we're going to make changes to the Constitution, so it doesn't matter. But would proportional voting be better? The only way to make preferential voting work as a practical matter would be to consolidate districts. So the only way to make it work as a practical matter would be to consolidate districts. So instead of like 20 districts in Pennsylvania, which you have now, you could have, I don't know, 2. You could have 10 of 2. And so you elect 2 people from each district instead. I don't know if that'd be better or not. I mean, because you have a wider area, you have a bigger area that those 2 people represent. So I don't know if that's desirable or not, because the area is smaller with 1 than it would be with 2. If you want 2, you have to effectively double the area. And so that might, and also it's not also great because it's like, who represents me is a little bit vague, which is also a problem I have with the Senate, incidentally. Because like, who exactly represents me here? They both do. It seems a little odd. The nice thing about House members, I have exactly 1 person who represents me. So I know who to complain to. This guy. So I don't know that proportional representation is right for the United States. Don't you have to be an engineering undergrad to be a patent lawyer? You have to have a technical degree of some kind if you want to be a patent lawyer. So you have to have engineering, chemistry. There's a list. There's a list on the patent office of degrees. But yeah, you have to have a technical degree to be a patent lawyer. You have to have the underlying science degree. So to be a patent lawyer. So computer science is my underlying technical degree. Yeah, computer science, not computer engineering, but you know. Law is not science, so don't expect logic to come from a system they set up using only law. There's more. I think law is actually very logical. I would agree it's not science, but I would disagree that it's not logical. Now, it's not to say that it's always logical or perfectly logical, but I think most of the time law is fairly logical. Most things in law derive fairly reasonably from their premises, and you do reach problems where things don't make sense, but those I think come up less for me than you might expect. The law does have a logic to it. It's very complicated in interactions, which is logical all the same. They're trying to accommodate a lot of different competing preferences, and I think most things in law are not as illogical as might be perceived. That's not to say everything's logical or that I agree with everything, but I think there's a logic in law. I find it to be logical for the most part. I don't find it to be illogical. I lost donation. That's unfortunate. You do IP and aviation law, undergrad in electrical engineering. That's very cool. 90 knots, which has aviation law elements to it. Yeah, that's cool. I don't know much about aviation law except, the basics, but that's cool. That's really cool. It's nice to have some IP lawyers here. I do like smart women. Just saying. I'm single and I like smart women. It would also be ideal if I could find a woman who I can talk about the subjects I care about because they're what I care about. So it'd be fun to be able to talk to someone who had an appreciation for the subject matter. How about Lee J. Carter from Virginia? I'm not as familiar with him. Could a bio undergrad go into law? Well, yeah. Any undergrad can go into law. If you're asking me patent law specifically, biology, yeah, I'm pretty sure biology qualifies. But yeah, any subject. There's no like prerequisite to law in terms of like what academic subject you can have. You can have any kind of degree from an undergrad and go into law. And, if you find the law school to accept you, and most degrees are helpful in one way aspect or another because there's law everywhere. So for any given subject you have, there's probably legal components to it. So you can always specialize in that field. Laws, every subject is pretty relevant to law to varying degrees. Should voting be mandatory? I'm going to say no. I think there's an argument to be made for yes, but if you can't be bothered to register to vote and vote, then I'm not sure you should be forced to participate. I'm not sure that we'd be getting value. Damn right, Shell. Damn right. Damn right. What are my thoughts on doing a master's of legal studies instead of a JD? Well, you need a JD to practice law. So on a practical level, if you want to practice law, you need a JD from an accredited university for an ABA school in almost every single state. There's a few states that let you apprentice, but in almost every single state, and you can do it in every single state with an ABA degree, American Bar Association degree. So on a purely practical level, you should get the JD if you want to practice law. On a understanding the law better, I don't know enough about Masters of Legal Study to have an opinion as to how it would qualify or not. Is it mandatory voting unconstitutional? I don't think so. I can't think of any obvious reason to be unconstitutional. I can't think of any obvious reason to be unconstitutional. I mean, you would have to give people an option to vote for none of the above. You'd have to allow them to be able to vote for nobody, I think, so that they weren't being affiliated from a First Amendment issue. But as long as you allow them to like say none of the above and not, you can actually make them go through the exercise of doing it, even if their preference is nothing. But at least then you made them commit to that. So yeah, if you're thinking you can't force them to vote for one of the candidates because that's a First Amendment problem from freedom of association, I'm with you. So as long as you have a none of the above option, or you can turn it in blank, I think you're fine constitutionally. I can't think of any obvious problem beyond that. Thoughts on Kardashian trying to get her law degree? More power to her. That's all I have to say about that. If it makes her happy, man, you know. How do you vote? Well, register to vote. Contact your county board of voting and ask them how to vote. They will help you out. Contact your county's board of elections. Say, how do I register to vote? They will be happy to help you. Yeah. All right. I think I'm going to sign off for now. I need to rest up a little bit because I'm going to stream after Emily does to do the Toddy thing. I want to bring my A game of energy for you guys. How do you get rid of my SJD? An SJD is very, very hard to get. So if you actually have an SJD, that's incredibly impressive because I'm hard pressed to think of anyone I've met that has an SJD. But how do you get rid of it? I don't know. You've earned it. Contact your school and say you don't want it anymore, I guess. But anyways, if you like this stream, please like it. If you haven't already subscribed, please subscribe. If you're not a member already, please hit the join button. For 99 cents too, you can become a uncivilian. Hit me up on Discord. It's the best way to find me. Until later, my friends, cheers and goodbye.